Member's time has expired.
Mr Speaker.
Dr Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, there are two agendas that are competing in New Zealand at the moment. There's the agenda for a smarter, greener, more compassionate New Zealand, and there's the government's agenda of daft, dirty and heartless. And nothing could illustrate that more than the debate around the Ruataniwha irrigation scheme, because it looks like a debate as to whether Nick Smith misled the parliament or not, but what sits behind it is that the government is absolutely determined to pursue its irrigation agenda regardless of the environmental effects. What we know from the Ruataniwha scheme is that it is massively subsidised by the taxpayer. Both the ratepayers in the Hawke's Bay as well as central government will be kicking in a lot of money. We know it has a huge downstream environmental effect, massive nitrogen contamination as a result of this dam project if it were to go ahead. And we know that the only government department with a statutory responsibility to stand up for the environment, to speak out for it, to make a submission into this process is the Department of Conservation. And that is why the Minister of Conservation had to censor his department and prevent them from putting in a submission which was critical of this dam project. The Department of Conservation's original submission simply stated the science. The science around this is very clear. When you have a massive irrigation project, hundreds of millions of dollars this project will cost, and then you have tens of thousands of hectares of intensified agriculture as a result, you get massive downstream nitrogen pollution with all the problems that causes, not only to the native fish in that river system, but of course to the recreational trout fishery as well. Fundamental destruction of the New Zealand environment. The Department of Conservation simply was going to put in a submission pointing to these basic scientific facts, but it was unacceptable to the government that the department should tell the truth about the freshwater science, so they had to be suppressed. It was just the same as when the government got rid of the democratically elected councillors in Canterbury prior to the earthquake, they got rid of the elected councillors in Canterbury because they were standing up to the irrigation agenda of this government, so they had to go. And that's why the Department of Conservation had to be suppressed, and its submission had to be suppressed. It wasn't allowed to go into this process. Ministry of Primary Industry, of course, were allowed to put in a very large submission in favour of the dam project, but the Department of Conservation was blocked. What this means is that we are heading down an economic path where we kill the goose that lays the golden egg. New Zealand's clean, green and safe reputation, the foundation of our primary sector, is being destroyed by the government while it seeks short-term profits and simply an increase in more and more milk solids. The last drop of milk from the last blade of grass could describe this government's economic strategy. Instead of having investment in research and development and innovation, making us an innovative economy that makes money from our brains, we are simply becoming an economy that digs stuff up and grows milk and sells it to the rest of the world, in the process completely destroying the natural environment that underpins our primary food export sector. As the Reddit Institute pointed out, that is the Agri-Food Institute who is an expert in this, the government is determined to destroy the clean, green and safe brand that underpins our primary sector, rather than saying what we need to do is build on that brand, get value out of that brand, control more of the value chain from that brand, get to know our customers, do the R&D so we make more money out of it, at the same time invest in research and development in more innovative industries that can complement the primary sector, so we don't build an economy entirely dependent on cows and mining as this government thinks we should do. That is the fundamental economic strategy issue that is at stake in this argument around the Ruataniwha Dam. It is a fundamental divergence of views between the National Party, which wants to keep heading down this strategy of daft, dirty and heartless, and the Green Party that says we need a smarter, greener, more compassionate strategy and a smarter, greener economic strategy that actually adds value and makes us more prosperous and richer, rather than simply degrading the natural environment on which our economy currently depends. That is the fundamental contradiction. So when Nick Smith had the motive to get in the way of the department's report. He had the opportunity, and the evidence is he interrupted the report. The reason why he's doing that isn't just some accidental reason. He's doing it in order to support the government's irrigation agenda, which is fundamentally undermining the New Zealand economy.
Honourable Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure that